Welcome to Candid Catholic Convos, a program brought to you by the Catholic Diocese of Harrisburg. Our mission is to humanize the Church and help you to grow in your faith, love, and understanding. I'm your host, Rachel Trochet, a cradle Catholic who's only human and struggled with faith on more than one occasion. Each week, you'll hear engaging, down-to-earth interviews and actionable strategies you can implement into your life with ease to help you grow closer to God. If you're ready to open your heart and step fully into the person God created you to be, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Candid Catholic Convos. We are now firmly planted in the summer season. In fact, June is already over, which is just wild to me. And I am so looking forward to long, lazy days of sun-drenched sandy beaches, of fireworks and fresh fruit, cookouts and carnivals, of rest, relaxation, and renewal. The fact that June is already over has really woken me up to the fact that, yes, while I have more space in my days because our schedules are more relaxed, there's no more rushing to school or sports, that space has easily been filled with other things. In fact, last weekend was the first weekend I've spent at home in, the last 3 weeks or so. It's a different kind of busy, but it's still busy. And in all that respite from routine, I've noticed that my faith has actually been affected. With weekends full of fun plans, it's easy to put off going to church. It's easy to forget morning prayer when your morning schedule is more relaxed. It's easy to fill our time with something else rather than building upon the foundation we've worked on throughout the year. So how can we use these months to actually grow and enrich our faith rather than neglecting it? How can we transition our time with God from something we have to do to something we want to do? Today we're chatting with Margot Kimmick of St. Ann Seton Parish in Mechanicsburg about some small, realistic, but really impactful ways we can use this season of relaxation and renewal to enrich our faith. Margot, thank you so much for joining me on Candid Catholic Convos. I'm really excited to talk to you about summer because it's like my favorite season. And I'm really excited to hear some ways that we can kind of really reinvigorate our faith in the summertime.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and your family and maybe how you guys spend summer.
Sure. So my husband and I have 3 kiddos and one on the way. They're 5, 3.5, 18 months, and then I'm 18 weeks along. I'm a convert to Catholicism from atheism, and then my husband's what you would call a revert. So raised Catholic, fell away for a little while, and then came back. He works in research and development, and I work part-time at St. Ann Seton as the administrative assistant. Summertime for us with preschool-aged kids, we don't quite have the ebb and flow of school and summertime, but, it does, as you said, lend itself with longer days, more time outside, kind of more leisurely activities. So, of course, we participate in all of that.
I love that. That's honestly that's a whole bunch of what we do as well. And I love talking to converts to Catholicism because like your husband, I'm more of a revert where I born and raised Catholic and then stepped away for a very long time before coming back just a couple of years ago. So I'm really, if you don't mind, I'm really curious to hear about kind of what led you to Catholicism.
Sure. So I, in college, actually had a friend and she was interested in her faith and stayed active in her faith. She would go most Sundays, if not every Sunday. And she just kind of would invite me. And it was actually the donut Sundays that I would usually go to.
Right?
Yeah. So through that, and then my mom had also, she's a Catholic revert. She had not quite gotten back to Catholicism, but into Christianity. So I remember it was, the summer, actually, and I thought, my mom, who I was and am close with, and then my friend are really into this. Like, let me just kind of dive in and give it a try. So I did over the summer. And then when I went back to college to the next semester, then I went through RCIA at the parish there.
I love that. Donuts are the way to everybody's heart, I'm telling you.
Sure.
They're the absolute best.
Yeah.
And I'm sensing a theme with summer because you mentioned that you started going back like in the summertime. So let's talk a little bit more about summer and the summer season, because it's not necessarily a break for everyone. You know, some of us still have to go to work and all that, but for many of us, it gives us more space. Like we have more room to rest. There's more room for relaxation and renewal, maybe less of a routine or a relaxed routine. And sometimes that's great. But when it comes to our faith, falling out of a routine means that extra space we now have gets filled like really quickly with other things like travel or sports or doom scrolling on our devices.
Yeah.
How can we kind of use that extra space more as an opportunity to grow deeper in our faith? Because, you know, like our Sunday obligation doesn't go away, but how can we use this extra time and space that we now have to really develop our faith rather than just feeling obligated?
Right. You know, staying focused on what's really important, you know, making sure you have your priorities straight. That's, you know, not that I don't slip in and out of good and bad habits, but trying to stay focused on that. I know we've been filling a lot of the extra space we've had with reading aloud to our kids. You know, they're still little, so not quite able to read yet, but they typically can sit through, they love being read to, so they can sit through maybe a chapter or half a chapter, depending. The 5-year-old a lot more easily than the 3.5 or 18-month-old. But so we've been trying to have faith-based books, or you know, there's just such a wide variety of resources out there now. You know, it seems like even more than in the past, books to choose from. We're actually reading through Narnia.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, the Chronicles of Narnia. And so that has all of those undercurrents of Christianity and the lion Aslan kind of as the figure of Jesus. And it's really interesting because I've read it before I was Christian or Catholic. And reading it now, it really hits home like, wow, you know, you can really see the similarities in the story of the salvation history woven into those fantasy books.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like, I remember reading that in school and just it never really clicking with me. I was just like, oh, this is just something we're supposed to read. Yeah. And then, like later you're like, oh, that I get it now. Like those revelations are really cool. And that's such a good idea. I mean, kids love to be read to anyway. It gets them excited about reading. Mine especially, we're working through chapter books. And like you said, like my 8-year-old can sit there. My 6-year-old, you know, he's almost 7, but he can kind of sit there. And then my 5-year-old is just somehow he's listening, but he's just off doing his own thing. I'm like, whatever. Yeah. At least they're getting that time. It's that quality time that they care about. And I'm trying to get them outside more, not just because like I want them to run it out, like run off all the popsicles and run off all the juice, but it's just it's a chance to really appreciate nature and that gift that God gave us. Just trying to be more present, you know, like we don't have to rush as much in the summertime, which is nice. It's nice to slow down, but like you said, like we don't, you know, we might fall in and out of a great faith routine, but you always get back on the horse.
Right.
So speaking of getting back on the horse, what are some ways that we can kind of engage our summer days intentionally? Like how can we find purpose in all this extra space?
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, time outside. I think that's a good connection. My mom lives in an in-law suite, my mom and stepdad. So we have, because otherwise this wouldn't happen, but we have a really beautiful, mostly flower, but some fruits and vegetables garden. And I know the kids really enjoy seeing that changing. And it's amazing how it changes, you know, through the seasons, but even just month to month, week to week. And the kids have really begun to appreciate that. And too, it's a, you know, peaceful kind of prayerful space. And for us, having that space is definitely helpful to foster the peace and recognize, God's creation. We also, I think, too, starting the day with prayer is a big thing, and it can be a little thing, but even a quick prayer when you have little kids depending on you to get them breakfast, that sort of thing. And so I'll try, for myself to find some time for prayer, even if it's not always, I try to do first thing, but sometimes the kids are up before my brain's going.
Especially when you try to get up early, it's like they know. And they're like, what are you doing? Well,
yeah, for sure. And too, having prayer time usually at meals seems to fit in the best. But yeah, so breakfast time, we usually try to read the saint of the day, or look at upcoming feasts, that sort of thing.
Oh, I love that. And my kids they're super into Blessed Carlo Acutis, who's now I heard is going to become a saint. So they're like all excited. But I like that saint of the day idea. That's a really good way to get kids hyped and kind of like know that there's so many different saints, and there's always somebody to pray to help us out. It's like, hey, I just need that little extra push.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I've been trying to get up early more for to exercise, because I feel like trying to fit it in any other time of the day. But like if you're up early and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm so tired. I don't want to do it. So today I had this like revelation while I was on the elliptical at the gym up the street. And I was like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it for someone else. And I'm going to offer it up in prayer.
Awesome.
And say like, I know somebody who's struggling right now, so I'm doing this for them.
Yeah.
And that has just that, like you said, just being able to fit it in. Like, yes, we have more space, but that space gets filled up. So just being able to, like, at meal times or first thing in the morning, or, if you're on a walk in nature, gardening, you can say, thank you. Like I'm offering this up, or just being present. Like that's so powerful. And it's little things that you don't really think about.
Right. Yeah. And just, thank you. That's a prayer, just really recognizing, in this state of life that I'm in, and, you as well, just really recognizing like the little things, or, picking up somebody's sock. Like sometimes I have to remind myself, like, I'm doing this for my family. Like this is what I'm called to do. This is like just offering it to God, and offering like, this is a way I can love my family, thinking of it. Not every time, but sometimes I will.
It's a practice.
Right.
I love that. Yeah, I'm going to have to start doing that when I'm like unloading the dishwasher. Be like,
yeah,
that we have food in our bellies because I have dirty dishes.
Yeah, true.
No, with that free time, because again, like we have all this space in the summertime, it usually means that like we have more availability to travel and go on vacations, or just go somewhere that isn't home, like go visiting places. Mm-hmm. How do we take our faith with us during these times?
Yeah, that's a good perspective, good thought. I know whenever we travel, definitely for me, and I feel like too, it's started to grow in my family as well, is looking up and finding the closest Catholic church. And we've even picked places because it's like within walking distance or nearby, and picking which mass we're going to go to. Sometimes it's easier than others. Sometimes you have a couple churches to choose from, but I love that part of vacation, visiting the church and, seeing how different it is, the architecture, the style of the church, the feel of the parish family there, as well as, even I like to listen for when they pray for the bishop, because it's, if we're out of state or, out of the diocese, it's a different bishop. And so, that kind of stands out to you. But also being able to see how truly universal and connected the Catholic Church is, that we are all, part of this body and part of this group and part of the body of Christ, and coming together. You think of often Mass times are similar. So thinking of, family or back home, how they're having Mass similar time or that sort of thing. That's always been something that I look forward to with traveling.
Oh, I love that. I remember when we were kids, me and my brother, we lived in like South Jersey. So we used to go down the shore, like to the Jersey Shore. It was always down the shore. It didn't matter which shore it was. Right. But we always went, my mom would make sure that on Sundays we were going to the local church down there. And I remember being like super bummed with it at the time. I'm like, I'm on vacation. I don't want to go to church. But just hearing the way you phrase that, it reminds us that we are all part of the same body of Christ. And it helps to know that like, you're not alone, because you might be in somewhere new. You might be like totally, unfamiliar with this place that you're traveling to. But if you can find a church, like the Mass is always going to be the same, and there's probably somebody there who can help you out, or just like, it just reminds you that we're all one big body of Christ. I love that.
Yeah, it is. And too, sometimes people go to the same place. So then it's like, oh, here's our vacation church.
Yes. Well, my mom was definitely that person. She was like, we're going to this one, because she really liked the guy who would sing, the guy who would be the cantor. So that was I like that, the vacation church.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're a parent. I'm a parent. Some of us are struggling this time of year with keeping our kids occupied. What kinds of things can we do to not just occupy our kids, but to kind of really help their faith blossom?
Yeah, I think we touched on it a little bit earlier with the saints. Like that's always kind of my go-to, because you see these people, these men and women that have lived out their faith, and they're just great examples to look for. And then too, in the summertime, there's a lot of great feast days to celebrate, like St. John the Baptist. You can have water balloon fights or play in the creek, that sort of thing, since he baptized Jesus in the river. And then too, the Assumption in August. And then too, saint that's kind of close to my family, St. Aloysius. His feast day is the 21st, so right around the start of summer, so kind of like a kickoff to summer. But learning about whenever we look into the feast day, or there's so many resources out there for liturgical living, and getting to know the saints more and what they're the patron of, or things that they liked to do. There's so many creative things that you can get into, and then activities to do with your kids from those. And too, having them, start to kind of have saints get to familiar with them, so they can have saints befriend them. They can befriend the saints, because we're all a part of this universal one body that, living or deceased, we can interact with each other in very special ways, and praying with the saints and praying with each other.
I love that idea. And especially the John the Baptist idea with even if you don't have water balloons, like let's go to the pool, let's go to the beach, let's go get in the water.
Yeah.
So, and just be reminded of our baptism. Like that's just wild. And like you said, it's just such a small thing that it's just easy to do, and easy to it. Like I think it was Saint Therese, the little flower, who was like, it doesn't have to be a big overt gesture, it's the little things.
Right, definitely. And too, like you have so much on social media. I saw everybody with their little Sacred Heart cupcakes, a strawberry with like sprinkles across, just little stuff like that to kind of highlight the feasts and make the day a little more special.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's a really good idea. And my kids and cupcakes. Oof.
Sure.
I have 3 boys, so like cupcakes don't last long in my house. Nice. Kind of backtracking a little bit, summer, especially for like students or people in the military, this is what we call PCS, or permanent change of station season. So a lot of people are moving. I know it can be kind of an isolating season. Maybe they're missing friends back at school, or they're missing their hometown, their family. how can we stay connected not only to Christ but to each other during this season?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there are so many transitions, and even within our diocese, all of the priest transfers, like there's a ton moving around right now. And our pastor, he was actually talking about how like it's a really difficult transition. You know, it's us as the parishioners, we think like, oh, a new priest, like that's exciting. But for them, it's tough. You know, they have to pick up everything and they pour so much out. But yeah, you know, looking for ways to support these people that are going through transitions, because any transition, good or bad, you can have like bittersweet. You know, even getting married. You know, weddings are often this season as well. You know, it's a wonderful thing, but there's that bittersweet where you're like, well, you know, I kind of miss living with my parents, you know, like now I'm over here. But it's also like, you know, wonderful that you're moving on to a different chapter of your life, you know, moving on with that sort of thing. I know for me, a big thing has always been, which is what I love about Catholicism and drew me to it, is like there's just always a community. And then two, the mass, it's always the same no matter where you go. So there's a lot of like we were talking about with the vacation churches, you know, there's whenever you find the closest Catholic church, or you know, in your new community, going there, I know that that would always when I was away or far from home, that sort of thing. Like there's so much community there, and there's, you know, almost always something going on that you can get involved in. So I always found, no matter where I went, like having that church as like the home base. And two, I had a friend that she actually did some missionary work in Africa. And it was really amazing, like the perspective she had. She was very faith-filled. And she always said, you know, I think I said, oh, you know, like, how are you feeling? Like, is it a tough adjustment? And she's like, well, my best friend is Jesus, and he's always with me. And I was like, wow.
That's a mind-blown moment right there.
Right. I'm like, geez, that's like, what a place to be in your faith journey. Like, what a rock to have. But, you know, it's so true. So, you know, taking him along with you is he's already there. You just have to call to him and come close to him. But yeah.
Oh, yes, that is. That's a powerful sentiment. And it's one that, you know, it's again, something that it's simple in that it's the truth. Right. And it's something that we don't think about. It's something that we don't rely on. And I love what you said about, you know, the mass is always the same. I remember having a discussion with a friend of mine who I think was Methodist, and they were like, well, why are you Catholic? And I'm like, because I know, like at the time, like I didn't have a really great explanation for it other than like I knew that the mass, like I knew what I was going to get every time I went to mass. I knew I was there for an hour. I was in the door. I knew the order. And for someone who's like a type A personality, like I tend to be, that was like helpful versus, you know, I had gone to my friend's church and like one day it was like 3 hours and then the next day it was like an hour and a half and like all the different songs. And I'm like, that's great. But I like Old Faithful over here where I knew what I was going to get at my church, but it's like you said, like you can go anywhere and all the Catholic churches are going to celebrate the mass. Maybe not in the exact same way because they might, you know, be like a Vietnamese church or a Spanish apostolate, but it's like the mass is the same. Like how they celebrate it is culturally diverse, but it's so vibrant and it's so steadfast. I think that's probably one of the things that brought me back to the church was that it was steadfast and like, yeah, I hadn't been in, I don't know, probably 8 or 10 years, but it was the same when I came back, and it's comforting.
Right, definitely. And even, you know, like you said, if it's the mass is being said in a different language, you can still follow along the rhythm of it and, you know, like saying it in your head or quietly to yourself in English or your native language, which I think, you know, that just helps with the connection.
It does. It really does. You had mentioned that the parish communities they have a lot to offer during the summer season. What specifically kind of events do a lot of churches have in common, like extra things to help us engage or develop our faith.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen a lot lately lists of the parish picnics, which those are awesome. And I remember kind of the first one I went to because they had it after the kids had come back from college, which was, very generous because it was, they catered to the college, but it was also kind of a small community church too. So I remember that, and as, in my late teens, early 20s, coming and having all of this awesome free food is really great.
Free food is the best.
Yeah. And then, too, with young kids, it's nice for them to have something they're able to sample or try new things, that sort of thing. It's easier than, going to a restaurant, something like that. Like there's more community based, as well. There's always Vacation Bible School, which is wonderful. At Elizabeth Ann Seton, ours this year is the 7 Sacraments. So my kids, I'm really excited for it. My kids, since they're little, we've of course talked about the sacraments, that sort of thing, but they haven't had as much one-on-one personal interaction. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to unfold and how, what they're going to take away from that, which is cool. And then also our parish, to kind of plug my own group, I co-lead one of the moms groups we have there, which is AIM, which stands for an investment in motherhood. And we run a mom's summer camp. So kind of the idea behind it is, kids get to go to summer camp and have fun and, make friends. And so we try to format it that it's kind of casual, a place to connect for moms and a place to unwind, at the end of the day.
We've unfortunately run out of time, but if you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, you can listen to us anytime on Spotify under Candid Catholic Convos, or you can download this episode from our website at hbgdiocese.org. Thank you so much for listening. Our goal at the Diocese of Harrisburg is to walk with you on your faith journey. So if this episode resonated with you in any way, the easiest way to show your appreciation is by sharing this program with your network or by leaving a review on your listening platform. You can also support us financially by making a donation online at hbgdiocese.org/DAC and clicking the Make a Donation button. Thanks again, and we'll see you at church on Sunday.